Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're operating anywhere within the automotive manufacturing ecosystem today, you already know we are right in the middle of a massive, incredibly high-stakes shift. The vehicles rolling off assembly lines right now, they are fundamentally different than they were a decade ago. And because of that, the rules of the game for literally every single supplier have completely changed. Today, we're unpacking exactly how to survive and actually thrive in this new era of automotive cybersecurity. Okay, let's dive into this. The automotive industry has totally transformed into a highly connected, software-driven ecosystem. Obviously, connectivity, autonomous driving functions, and digital services are creating enormous opportunities for all of us. But with those incredible leaps forward in technology come, well, unprecedented vulnerabilities. We aren't just building mechanical machines anymore, right? We're basically building networked data centers on wheels. And that brings us to a really defining reality from our source material. Quote, "The days of treating cybersecurity as an OEM-only problem are over." You see, new global regulations, specifically UNECE R155 and R156, have forcefully pushed the burden of responsibility down the entire supply chain. So it's no longer just the automaker's headache. That pressure, it is fully distributed now. Section 1. Impact on OEM relationships. The shift here is pretty stark. In the old approach, cybersecurity was often viewed as, a nice to have, or maybe just an end-of-line quality check. But today, it's a strict must-have. It is a literal contractual gatekeeper. OEMs are legally required to gain regulatory type approval for their vehicles under those new UNECE regulations. The catch is, they absolutely cannot achieve that type approval without rock-solid cybersecurity evidence from their suppliers. So your compliance is literally the key to their legal ability to sell cars. No pressure, right? Which leads us to a really critical question you need to be asking yourself and your teams. At what point in the supply chain are you, as a supplier, actually expected to provide this cybersecurity assurance? Think about your current product lifecycle for a second. When do you actually bring security to the table? Well, if you're waiting until the product development phase, or worse, product delivery, you're already too late. The answer is at the RFP stage. OEMs now expect Tier 1, Tier 2, and even Tier 3 suppliers to provide threat analysis and risk assessments, or TARAs, and concrete cybersecurity evidence as part of their initial project proposals, literally just to win the bid. Section 2. What is ISO/SAE 21434? And this brilliantly illustrates the difference between where we were and where we're going. You might already be familiar with ISO 26262, which handles random failures and functional safety, or maybe TISAX, which secures your internal IT and organizational data. But ISO/SAE 21434 is an entirely different beast. It uniquely targets intentional, constantly evolving cyber attacks on automotive systems, and it does this throughout the entire life cycle of the vehicle. It basically forces product-level cybersecurity directly into the engineering process. Now, a logical question that always comes up whenever a new standard drops is about the paperwork. Do you absolutely need to hold an official certificate, or is internal, demonstrated compliance enough to keep the OEMs happy? Legally speaking, formal certification to ISO/SAE 21434 isn't strictly mandatory. What is required, absolutely, is the ability to demonstrate your compliance through your work products. However, actually holding that certificate is the ultimate competitive advantage. It immediately signals maturity, it builds early trust, and practically speaking, it helps you bypass those incredibly exhaustive, rigorous OEM audit interviews that can completely bog down a project. Section 3. The cost of vulnerability. The source guide shares a pretty sobering case study here. A global OEM discovered a significant vulnerability in one of their vehicles that was already out in the wild. When they did the forensics, that vulnerability was traced directly back to a specific supplier's component. And while the supplier quickly patched the issue, the damage to the OEM's trust was immediate. They realized right then and there that they needed a systemic fix, not just a quick software patch. But here's the turnaround. The supplier realized that proactive compliance equals a reinforced reputation, so they partnered with experts at Bureau Veritas to establish processes completely aligned with ISO/SAE 21434. By introducing structured risk assessments and way better communication controls, they actually managed to turn a crisis into a massive reputation builder. They proved to the OEM that they were a highly mature, reliable partner for the long haul. Section 4. 5 Steps to Compliance. Now, what's really interesting about this transition is the ultimate challenge of bridging the gap between traditional physical manufacturing on one side and this incredibly complex digital security landscape on the other. Merging these two worlds, it doesn't happen by accident. It requires a deeply structured, top-down approach. And here is that top-down approach broken into 5 steps. Step 1, management ownership. Cybersecurity has to be baked into the corporate culture, not just treated as a compliance checkbox. Step 2, identify your scope and understand exactly what your OEM customers expect. Step 3, align with your own upstream supply chain. Step 4, establish a structured risk assessment framework. And finally, Step 5, don't go it alone. Build strong partnerships with technical experts.
I want to pause on step 4 real quick and unpack a crucial acronym you're going to hear constantly: TARA. Threat Analysis and Risk Assessment. This isn't just a theoretical concept. It's a highly structured framework used to identify potential attack vectors and actually quantify their impact. More importantly, the TARA is the primary, concrete deliverable OEMs will demand to see to prove that you're prioritizing mitigation correctly.
And this is exactly where Step 5 comes in. A partner like Bureau Veritas systematically guides suppliers through this whole complex journey. They provide awareness and training for your teams, conduct gap assessments to see where you currently stand, help you build those highly technical vehicle and component TARAs, support your implementation and testing, and finally guide you right through the formal certification process. The whole shebang. So, the crucial point is this. ISO/SAE 21434 compliance is becoming the currency of trust in supplier OEM relationships. Without this currency, you simply cannot do business in the modern automotive manufacturing sector. It is quite literally the absolute foundation of your future contracts. Which leaves us with one final critical thought for you to take away from this explainer today. Take a hard look at your organization right now. Is your cybersecurity posture a bottleneck that might cost you your next RFP? Or are you actively leveraging compliance as your greatest competitive advantage to win trust and secure your future? The shift is happening right now, and the choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for learning with us today.